Welcome, everyone. The session's called Going Beyond Passwordless, Lessons Learned. We have two folks here from Authenticate. We have Chad Spensky, who's the CEO, and we have Rita Munir, who's the co-founder and COO. So welcome, and thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for showing up. We'll try to make this entertaining. So first, I want to just re-emphasize our mission and the mission of this conference is to create authentication ecosystems that are really easy to use and secure the world and reduce a lot of the burden from our life. So that this is what all of the research, what our talk is about. Specifically, if you're wondering where the name of our company came from, when we were talking about this, we needed a noun or a verb to kind of describe what's going on. So we came up with the term authentication, the idea of having one credential that can authenticate you to everything. So when you see us use this word throughout our talk, that's what we mean. And we specifically mean a hardware token. So what we'll go over today, first I'll give you a little authentication background. We'll get in the Wayback Machine. I'll tell you how I got into this and kind of where FIDO falls into that story. Most of this talk is going to be my lessons learned through research over the past 15 years, trying to bring authentication to the world. That name is new, but the idea is not. And then Rita will show you some real-world experiences after we've since started a company. We've actually put this out there as a product, and things go crazy, as you'll see. And then hopefully there's some useful takeaways for the FIDO folks and anybody in here as a user or an implementer. So first, just graphically what we mean by going beyond passwordless. So typically, the FIDO protocol right now, today, just really talks to websites and computers. So most of the demos you'll see, we're unlocking websites, we're logging into workstations. And what we mean is we really want to go everything. We put this in cars, we put our SSH private key in here, we can log into computers, we can log into physical doors, websites, and then you can go all the way to blockchain, crypto, voting for the president, all of that. So we really mean authenticate to all the things is what my research was looking at over the past decade and a half. So how we got here. So despite my youthful appearance, I'm actually one of the OGs of kind of this ubiquitous authentication space. So back in 2008, there was a system installed at Carnegie Mellon University called Gray. The two guys who created this became my advisors when I started my PhD in 2008. We had Java phones back in the day that you could scan QR codes and unlock doors and log into computers and use your phone as a visual prompt to log into things. So this was at the time, mind-bending. I'm a fresh PhD student. This is the future. I sign up. I'm going to go change the world. You find out very quickly that is not how PhDs work. You don't change the world. It's like incremental research that gets published and no one reads. So I get bummed. I end up dropping out of my PhD just to add a little coolness to my resume. In 2010, this was an unlikely event to kind of spark our whole avenue of research. I met a German guy named Miloš who told me that he could hack every HID system on Earth at a conference. Hackers like to gloat, so I came home, wanted to check this guy's claims. He was not lying. He could. And so could I because of him and some other folks I was working with in the Netherlands. Fast forward a little bit, I joined MIT as a full-time researcher at about the same exact time that FIDO and Squirrel start hitting the market. So this was kind of the heyday for authentication. We're trying all sorts of crazy stuff. Who's going to win? FIDO had a lot of traction. Our only concern with FIDO is we thought they scooped one of our academic publications. They're like, we got to keep our eye on these guys. So this all happens at the same kind of crux. And then we're researchers. We're like, what if we take one step back even farther and don't go passwordless, but try to solve the whole problem, right? Why not? How hard can that be? So we called it single device authentication. At the time, this was an internal project we were doing at MIT. And I've always have to reemphasize this to everybody in my life that's like, Chad, you're so brave. Way to do this. I'm like, there's a really fine line between bravery and stupidity. I think I'm closer on the stupidity but lucky side. So you'll see, kind of the lucky things that come up here. So first thing that I thought was awesome, I'm like, okay, if we're gonna do everything, this is my 2005 Dodge Ram. This is before Teslas were widespread. And I'm like, my phone should be able to unlock my truck, start my truck, and when I walk away, I want my truck to lock, right? Awesome. So I do this. I literally hotwire the truck. It's not very straightforward to do this with a car that ancient. So All of these wires are plugged in. There's a bunch of different igniters. The sunroof has a separate power to lock and unlock. There's a certain resistor that you have to set at just the right ohms, and that'll unlock the truck. I set this whole thing up. I get in the truck. Cool. Truck starts. Pull the wheel all the way aside. It locks. You can't drive. So then I have to go get this special tool from AutoZone, pull this little pin out of the steering wheel. So it's the easiest truck on earth to steal by far, but it's backed by, like RSA cryptography. So it's awesome. This is like the coolest thing ever. It blows my friends' minds. They're like, you have this junky, old-looking truck with a dent in the bumper, but it has this amazing experience. Things you learn, right? On a computer, all these ideas made sense. When the Bluetooth disconnects, you lock the computer and shut it down. That's great. When your phone dies at 75 miles an hour on the highway and your truck locks, not a bad problem, but it also shut off the engine. So I'm literally cruising down the highway, phone dies. Uh-oh. Like, this is doing nothing. Obviously, push to start doesn't work. It's linked to the phone. I'm like, So I luckily had a backup key, and I'm like fumbling around, have to put the key in the ignition, restart the truck, life goes on, right? I put up here that state machines are really important. Computers really have two states, locked, unlocked. That's much easier than a truck that has like, am I moving? Are you hitting the brakes? Is the ignition started? Learned a lot of crazy lessons there. Also didn't believe that a 12-volt battery in a car could put out that much current. I was probably near death hot wiring this thing. I'm just like clacking wires together. This is a blown relay. My whole system like caught on fire again in the middle of the highway. Great timing. Where you're just driving and you hear like a pfft, and smoke starts coming up out of your dashboard. And obviously your truck shuts off because that was the relay running the ignition. So, it's a little different once you like step out of the passwordless world and into, the physical world. So I sold that truck. It was kind of crappy for many reasons, nothing to do with my hacking. It was just kind of lemon. And then I got a 2018 F-150, and I was like, oh, okay, now I get to like put my cybersecurity skills to the test. I can just hack the CAN bus. I don't have to do all this hot wiring. And it turns out that like worked right out of the gate. That was shockingly simple. Like I plug it in, I hit lock, I record it, I hit unlock. Hey, this is great. I can lock and unlock my truck with my phone. The car alarm didn't really understand this, and it made sense to me later why this looks problematic, that I'm hitting the unlock button in the car, but I locked it with my key or, when I walked away. So like pretty much every time I would come out of a restaurant, my truck just goes berserk because it unlocks when I walk near it, which then the car alarm thinks somebody broke the window and hit the unlock button. So it's like, bah, 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 bah. But very cool feature. Turns out you can hack the firmware, the Ford firmware, and turn that off. But, learning lessons. We posted this on social media just for fun. This is not like anything I ever intended to build. It's just me being quirky. It went absolutely viral. Like so many VCs reached out to us. Car companies want us to implement this in their cars. Like no, that was complicated. It was fun. Moving on, but it totally can be done, and it's really nice. But I won't do it for your car, but I'll give you how-to guides. Next thing I do is my house. I'm like, okay, I got my car. This is cool, but I want my whole life to just like exist. I walk in, it opens up. The proximity thing here made way less sense at home. So like right now, this computer is unlocked because the phone is nearby. It makes sense. The hardware token's there. When you're in your house, you are always nearby. So like I first install this in my house, and I'm like, this is amazing. And I'm like, so wait, every time I'm home, the door is just unlocked. And I live in like a kind of bad part of town at this moment in my life. Like, okay, again, we need to like add some more functionality in there to like, maybe it's not always unlocked. It has a timer, all that stuff. Guest keys are amazing though. Like once you start integrating your phone to your house, I lived in Santa Barbara, so friends were always visiting. They would just show up, go in my house, do whatever they want, and then leave at will, and I delete their key. And then unlocking was amazing. I'd come back with my groceries in my F-150, all fixed, but I could get out, armful of groceries, and just like karate kick the front door open and walk in. So, these products are coming. I don't know if we're going to make them, but someone will, and you'll one day get to karate kick your door open with an armful of groceries. That was actually really cool. In grad school at the time, we've done various different offices at this point. The one at the bottom is the first prototype ever. This is my lab in grad school. It's not the prettiest thing, but it absolutely will unlock a door if you had a phone nearby, kind of. There was a lot of people getting locked in and out of the office. it turns out, yeah, you can lock people in, like the mag locks on top. If the system fails, they don't open. Like that, we didn't realize that initially, that was a problem, and we actually had that happen where like someone was stuck in their office. We're like, okay, yeah, the stakes are much, much higher than unlocking websites here. I see what you're saying. Doors magically unlocking, though, is super cool. Like that vibe of you walk up and just like, bam, you hear it click when you walk up to it, and then you walk away and you hear the latch like click, click, beep behind you. Not all doors are created equal. I'm a computer scientist by trade, not a mechanical engineer. There is a lot of complicated mechanical parts in doors, and I'm now an expert in door locks. So if anyone has a problem with your door lock, I can help you out. And reliable distance bounding. This has actually been something throughout my entire research, like entire career, that as an industry, I really think we need to focus a lot more effort on. So like the Bluetooth RSSI is just terrible. It's not well done. You need some accurate clocks and dedicated hardware in really phones and computers so that they can distance bound. It's going to unlock a world of wonderfulness for like, authentication and kind of proximity-based proof of concept things. We ultimately did computers, might as well. We did proximity-based pseudo. I did this in grad school, and this was the coolest feature I've ever implemented, I think, in my life. As a developer, you type pseudo, and if your phone's nearby, it just works. You don't have to type a password. OS kernels, really complicated. Sometimes I actually do use my doctorate. This is one of those instances when we're interfacing with these. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that does make sense in hindsight why that wouldn't work. Users do want wireless tokens. So this was a user study I did in grad school. So we had a smartphone app that you could either plug in over USB to use like a typical token. It would connect over Bluetooth or it would connect over Wi-Fi. And we were really just gauging, hey, what interface do people use? So we gave them the option in the app on the computer to select what interfaces were on and off. By default, they were all on. Everybody would open the app. It was like 80% of the folks would open it and immediately turn USB off. Not that they wouldn't use it, they would explicitly turn it off. Don't exactly know why. No one really said in the exit interviews, but they wanted Bluetooth. It was like, I want that feeling of like, hey, I'm just nearby, and it works. So that's what we've been doing ever since. We've just kind of focused on Bluetooth. Having computers unlock when Bluetooth disconnects turns out to be really nice and also really terrible. Like right now, if we're in the middle of this presentation, had I not had the 10 years of terrible experience, the Bluetooth will likely disconnect and just like everything was shut down. So we learned a lot of ways that Bluetooth's finicky and you have to deal with minor disconnections here and there and be able to survive those without compromising user experience. And then authentication is really dangerous. I mean, you are the gatekeeper to everything, right? Like this is the main thing that's going to unlock the website, the computer, whatever. And you brick your computer so many times when you're developing in this environment. So like I have this joke, like quickest way to turn a computer into a brick was just like, hey, install my research software because it's done. Like there is no way to log into that computer. We had like a kind of 0 day on Mac computers for a long time that like I had a backdoor that if I could use a password even though you shouldn't have been able to. And then they patched that, so that made development cycles a little longer. And it's like there was literally a presentation we were giving to an investor, and I bricked my computer like minutes before. I'm like, I really need a separate laptop for like presentations, one for development. It's a disaster, though. I'm like, it's all gone. Like, I don't know. I have to reformat the hard drive. But thank God the presentation's on, in the cloud. And we did websites. We really didn't do websites. OAuth and OpenID Connect and SAML and all of those things made integrating with websites really straightforward. The biggest thing we've learned though is that push notifications are really, really unpredictable, and these just like create a terrible user experience that's no fault of your own. That one's been a huge bummer. It's like a very obvious, oh, I just use push notifications, but then internet's finicky, things get weird. MFA fatigue, again, if you're using push notifications, is a really tough problem to solve. And all of my research that, forgot that was my microphone. All right, the best I could come up with was, we really need to prove proximity. So again, some distance bounding would be amazing. But without distance bounding, I think I've even seen Chrome do this, you can at least check that they're like Bluetooth proximal, right? So like, hey, is the phone nearby? Is that the thing that sent the request? And proximity-based login, which at the end we'll show you, is super cool. Like you can just browse to a website, and because the phone's here, it doesn't even ask you for a username. So usernameless and passwordless, bam, just logs you in. So that's been some cool stuff that came out of my research. And now I will hand it over. Sorry to spoil that. I'm going to hand it over to Rita to show you when you take research and throw it in the real world, things get even crazier.
All right, thank you, Chad. So now that you've heard a little bit more about things that we have authenticated in the past successfully and unsuccessfully, I will walk you through and tell you some stories about our real-life experience from real people getting locked out. So first thing we realize is that when you take passwordless, okay, you're getting rid of passwords, but once you start getting rid of keys, cards, and everything relies on your phone, the stakes get way, way higher. And in fact, like doors need to be 100% reliable, otherwise people get pissed. So here are some messages that we got from early users that were not very happy. One of them is, as you can see, 11:35 p.m. Someone's locked out of their office. Again, we have to take action. We have to go save them. Luckily, we can do things remotely, so that helps a lot. Sometimes we can do things remotely. Earlier in the day, we couldn't. And then we have another message saying, hey, I'm locked out. Can you coordinate a remote unlock? Not fun, right? When people are locked out of their offices, they can't get into their office. They probably have meetings, a busy day. So you definitely don't want to be the cause of that. And the last one is actually one of my favorite emails. I woke up to this email. We printed it out and put it in our office. It was literally saying, if it was my choice, I would rip it out. If your product provides a worse experience than a key, then it had failed. Perfect, right? Everything's great. And another thing we realize is that external factors can really make or break your experience, your user's experience. So we got a customer telling us that the doors are unlocked, something is wrong. Like, the doors are totally unlocked. We look into the logs, everything looks fine for us, and then we're so confused. Then he sends me this video. My initial reaction is, oh my God, you have a ghost. Why are you calling me? Call Ghostbusters. No, it's actually someone didn't close the door properly when we looked at the timestamps and compared them with the video. So when the wind blows, it blows the door open. So our lock is just controlling the mechanical lock. It locks it when people leave the office, but it can't force people to close the door properly. So here the solution is a door closer, which we have told them before, and they didn't want to put a door closer. They were so against a door closer. But after this video, we're like, it's your only solution here. You have to put a door closer. So eventually, they put a door closer. We didn't have this issue anymore. Another funny one is sometimes it's just the heat. If you live in a hot area and you have an old building, the doors will increase in size. And that, again, causes similar issues. So it could be totally external factors that you don't control that can make it very poor user experience. Bad news for everyone trying to replace legacy solutions like most people in this room and ourselves. When you're trying to replace legacy solutions like keys, passwords, and smart cards, you only get one shot. If you do it wrong, or if your users are frustrated or can't do it very seamlessly, they're going to stop using it. They'll go back to their old ways because passwords and keys, no matter how annoying they are to use, they've been working for decades, right? So people are used to it. So one thing we learned is your product must be very user error resistant. You need to make it super easy for them. In fact, 90% of our first issues were fixed by an easy Bluetooth, make sure you turn your Bluetooth on because it's a BLE product. It's Bluetooth Low Energy that is going to unlock your door and your computer. So make sure it's on. But because we couldn't keep telling everyone, hey, do this, do that, make sure your your app can open in the background, we had to do it ourselves. We had to go and adjust our code or like start totally blocking off the app for them to, hey, go turn on your Bluetooth if you want a good experience. So it becomes our responsibility to fix that. And another one is one size does not fit all. Users want a very customizable experience. They want to say which level of security they want for each action. So as Chad said, for a door, let's say an office door, you want it to be pretty seamless, right? People want to just walk up to their offices, phones in their pockets, and everything unlocks. but they want it to require some sort of PIN or biometric verification after hours. So let the user choose that. They want to only have the phone presence to be enough to use their sudo, for example. So let them have that. If they want to use a biometric or a PIN to browse to their Gmail or AWS account, they can do that. So flexibility is key, pun intended, of course. And then lastly, your stack, your problem. And I'm going to tell you 4 instances where our stacks caused us problems. First one is when we found a really critical security vulnerability in the Linux kernel. One of our customers was locked out of their office over the weekend. It was a Saturday. We start looking into the logs. We're just very confused what's going on. And then our engineers found out that it was a very deep security vulnerability in the Linux kernel. We had to work with the Linux engineers to patch it. We got a CVE, and it was fixed, pushed within 2 weeks. So again, we definitely have to fix that. Internet delays. We use FCM messages for some specific actions. So if the user, we've had several instances where people ask us and reach out and say, hey, your system's down. We look into it. It's actually not down. It's just that the FCM providers, they're having issues. It's taken forever to deliver the message. But because they want the message to pop in within a few seconds, if it's taken more than that, sometimes takes minutes, they're going to think your product's failing. So again, external factors, your stack, your problem. Or we've had some users complain that the product just totally doesn't work. We looked into it, nothing weird, so we're very confused. And then another user reaches out for the same reason. We start looking at it more, and we see that they both have a Pixel 6. So naturally, what we did is buy in a Pixel 6. So we bought a Pixel 6. Chad has one. And when we started looking into it, it was actually the chip, the Bluetooth chip in the Pixel 6 is not doesn't work with the chip that we have in our own hardware in our door readers. So we literally had to go in our code base and put an if statement, if Pixel 6 do this. So very specific cases that you have to go fix when it's in the real world, physical world mostly. And then this one is my favorite. We're flying back out of the Authenticate conference last year from Seattle. We were boarding the plane, and then we have this Slack lounge for all of our customers. And there's a customer that says, at channel, which means everyone got the message, at channel, our offices are beeping, super loud noise, and it's your product. Whoa, that's not good. And it's at channel, like shaming us in front of everyone. We start looking into it, and then he's like, we're also boarding a plane. We can't do much. And then he sends us pictures of the reader's whole crypt off the wall. It was very heartbreaking. And then a message 2 seconds after saying, uh-oh, it wasn't your product, it's the alarm system. So the office is still going, super loud beeping noise, not our product. We got shamed publicly. But because we're the new product, we had to, we were blamed first. 1 minute, apparently.
Yep. So I'll quickly summarize. We're telling you all of these things not to just make ourselves, maybe convince you we're a little bit on the stupid side, but that these are lessons learned. And I think as an industry, we're going to go beyond passwordless, right? Like that problem's already hard enough. We've kind of been pushing the forefront, fortunate of having research funding for a long time. But some of the things, like one of the things I've been pushing at FIDO is I really do believe some actions need to use the private key without interaction. So like this kind of seamless walk through a door, walk up to a computer, sudo is really nice. And you don't really have security risk there. Architecting a secure system is really hard. Please be empathetic with everyone in the room. Why does passkey take so long? It's hard. It's definitively a very hard problem. Bluetooth, let's just start over. I don't know. Bluetooth is really complex. There's been a lot of issues with it. It gives a bad user experience, and it gives a bad rap to the products that use it, unfortunately. Pairing codes have got to go. I think you've kind of seen the trend. You just flash a QR code. That's much better. Pairing codes hopefully will be a thing of the past. Deauthentication on disconnect, very cool, very risky. We need to make sure as an industry to debounce connections. High-level takeaways. I want automobiles to buy into this, maybe support FIDO. That would be awesome. Doors, if there was some standardized protocol that all readers started to use to interface with smartphones, that would also be awesome. Again, maybe it's FIDO, maybe it's something similar to OAuth, but for physical standards. Push notifications, temporary solution, but I think we need to move on. SSH keys should totally be on your phone, not on a file on your computer. Laptops, again, we really need some standardized way to plug into authentication modules. And finally, if anyone in the room knows anything about trust execution environments and can let me in, this is absolutely the next step we need to go to as an industry, not just getting the user adoption and going passwordless, but then pushing it into the hardware that's already on the phones to provide the most secure experience possible. I've done research in here like 10 years. Just please let me in. I can help. Thank you so much. I hope this was valuable.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we don't have time for questions, but it was a great presentation, and I'm sure you can grab Rita and Chad before they escape. So thank you very much.
And that's what we mean in by...
That's
what... Oh, it
switched
switched the screen off. It's too fast. I want to show you what I mean by presence-based login.
Just logged you in right away.
The demo.
Just because the phone was there.